Joel Fleischman Happy Hour Podcast, episode number 108. We have Tony Koebel from the West Bend area. He owns and operates the Orville and the Norbert restaurants. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
Truly, Tony, pleasure. We've been trying to get you on for a year, one of the world's busiest men. And
Cheers.
Two of my, if you listen to the podcast at all or know me at all, I am a huge restaurant geek guy. Like I talk a lot of analogies at Drexel about the hospitality and restaurant industry because it's so consumer facing and how it relates to the lumberyard world. And these are two of my favorite restaurants in the planet.
Thank you.
Definitely top 10 of the, if I had to say what are my top 10 restaurants, they both make it in the top 10.
Wow. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the invitation.
And we do talk about restaurants and hospitality and a lot. I mean, it comes up. So that's quite high on the list then. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Tony's a great guy. Tony, one thing I'll remember about Tony, I had just met him, and Pam and I had maybe been at the restaurant 2 or 3 times at Orville, which was back then was popular. They have a beautiful bar on the second story. Both are in West Bend, Wisconsin. Set it up on the web if you can for him. And we hadn't been in there in months. And we walk in and he says, "Hi, Pam and Joel." And he recommends the wine that my wife drank like 3 months later, which was like, I don't know, it was like a dessert flavored one. And she's like, "Yeah, that's what I had. That was great." I'm like, "Okay, this dude's legit."
Oh.
And he's one of them bartenders. When he bartends, he's the guy that's always sparkling. And he's taught his staff that I don't know how. They're always cleaning the glasses, you know? Sure. Like it's the nervous jitter, clean the glass look. And then they hang them up on the top. I love when bartenders do that, right?
Gotta
like
stay
polishing.
busy. Yeah, if you're not, what's the saying? I think if you're not cleaning, you're leaning.
Yeah, you don't have leaning bartenders. You have the cleaning bartenders.
We do.
They're always polishing those glasses, which I just think is such a shtick, which is great.
On the clock, you know, how that I guess goes back to efficiency.
So I want to kind of know your history, because you were a carpenter, or if you're a carpenter, you're always a carpenter. So you are a craftsman and a carpenter, remodeled your own restaurants, but also do some carpentry stuff. We want to get into that. I want to kind of get your background. Who you are, where you grew up, all that.
Sure. Grew up in West Bend. Went to St. Francis Cabrini. Ended up going to high school.
Oh, Cabrini, Holy Trinity. So there's the rivalry right there.
Yeah.
HTS, yeah.
Yeah.
Two Catholic schools, St. John's tournament, you know, get after it.
Ended up going to high school down in Milwaukee at Marquette. And I would say, I guess if I'm writing...
Well, you are like a good Catholic boy, all 12 years.
Not practicing as much as I used to, but, you know, religion and God still play a part in all of this.
Do you still consider yourself Catholic?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I consider myself a believer in God and still tied to the faith. But you know, the older I get, you know, the more I look at organized religion a little bit differently. I'm happy people have faith, and I've always got an ear for a great saying or anecdote or a prayer. Thank God that I've got a family like my mom and dad who have tremendous faith. They're always pushing me to pray and you know, keep God close. So that does some of the work for me. So yeah, if I'm writing a book though, Marquette High School had a big part in I think who and what I've become based on some of the service that I've done. Also pushed me to maybe work a little bit harder, take things a little bit more seriously. But I knew probably my sophomore year, you know, when you go to Marquette High School, not only do you have a guidance counselor back then, but you also have a college counselor. And they're pushing every single one of their students, all 250 of each class, to, you know, go to college. It's so important that you get a 4-year university.
Well, at least back then. When did you graduate? What year?
97.
Yeah, see, I was 92. In the 90s, if you didn't go to college, you were like a loser.
Yeah.
And I hate that. And I think it's really changed. I hope it's changed. I know it's changed. I don't think that's the way it is now.
I'm glad it's changed. And
I'm super glad. There's so many. God makes you for so many different reasons, and it's not always a 4-year degree. And honestly, I have an English degree and talked to a lot of people, and I love Oshkosh where I went to college, but did not learn business.
Yeah.
In my business, I have a business minor. I didn't learn shit, to excuse my French.
I told my college counselor sophomore year of high school at Marquette that I wanted to be a carpenter, and he said, "Well, you'll do that after college." I'm like, "No." So
I can make XYZ in 4 years. Okay.
I had a couple friends that were at 19, 20, 21 years old. I was still at either Whitewater or UWM. I did both schools. Never finished school. 42 credits shy, but my dad started this small remodeling company, and I grew up with a hammer in my hand. I grew up actually. My dad had hardware stores when I was a kid. He had 3 True Value hardware stores. And
in West Bend?
No, he had one on 35th and Valete, one in Fredonia, and then one in Shorewood on Capitol Drive.
Not Nye's in Fredonia. There was a hardware store and Nye's at the time in Fredonia? Must have been.
I guess. Okay, let's see here. Maybe it's a little closer to Wabaca, but I think it had a Fredonia. You know what? It's right next to Schweiz.
Yeah, up on top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad actually...
if you know what he's talking about, it's like these 2 really small towns, Wabaca and Fredonia, and it's just funny that he's like, well, maybe it was Wabaca. Yeah, both towns are maybe 500 people or something, so it's pretty funny.
So when you're the son of a... my dad had hardware stores, so...
Had to work 1 million hours a week, right? Hardware store guys worked 1 million hours a week.
Oh, yeah.
Sundays, Saturdays, whatever.
Yeah, and you just become an employee.
Yeah. You're a slave employee.
Really
for sure.
cheap labor.
Yeah.
So you sweep a lot of floors, you eventually learn how to cut.
I got paid $1 an hour was here at the Lumberyard. That's a true story.
Oh, that's great. That probably beat me, and you're 5 years ahead of me, so... no, my parents took real good care of us. But I loved the business, and I loved being around tools. So as I got older, I always liked pounding things together, and I really got interested in carpentry. So I did that for a while with them, and then I moved on just for a bit I really wanted to get into finished carpentry, like high-end, beautiful finished carpentry. And I was fortunate enough to work with a good company down in Milwaukee by the name of Sasmo. And I learned incredible things from them. They had some really great carpenters. I'm sure they still do. They were doing really high-end finished carpentry in these beautiful homes, mostly on like Lake Drive.
Of course. Yeah.
And
12-inch crown molds.
Oh yeah, dental work.
11-foot doors.
Oh yeah,
Italian marble.
Just stupid stuff.
Right. Restoration stuff, not really modern stuff, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then my dad was picking up some properties while I was in my 20s, and when I was almost 28 years old, an opportunity kind of opened itself up to us. My dad had an office on the corner of 5th and Poplar, and right next to us was this historic building, which is now the Orville, but we had a gentleman come in from over there. His name was Aaron Furyk. The Furyk family did a great job with what was the Brown Dog Pub, and there had been several owners of the building in the business for several years, and they came in and they kind of made us an offer. I thought it was a good offer, but they wanted to see if we wanted to buy this restaurant, and I was 27, 28, full of piss and vinegar, and thought, well,
you still are, right? I know you're good enough for that.
How difficult is it to run a restaurant, right?
No-brainer.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
And then you realize that you're going to work for the rest of your life if you can, remain in the business in the service of others. And there's so much to know about the business, and you can't just do it from standing behind the bar and knowing what your wife drinks. You've really got to dive into the kitchen because your costs are there. There's some costs behind the bar too. The money is made at the bar, but keeping an eye on food and labor are really the two primary costs of the business. And if you can constantly shave off of those things, you can have a decent life, I guess, or at least make a little bit of money. I still don't think I've made any money in the business because I'm constantly upgrading.
You're reinvesting your profits into the business.
Correct. Because I see an industry that's constantly changing, and if we've learned anything over the last 5 years is how much our industry changes on a dime. And especially with COVID, and then last summer with the city of West Bend, they did a fantastic job remodeling Main Street. But during that time, luckily, by the grace of God, I went to a restaurant by the name of the Windrose. I'm going to say this is in 08 or 09 in Port Washington. It was this beautiful, awesome restaurant on Highway 33 or Highway 32 in downtown Port Washington. And I remember they had ripped up that entire road. And I think a lot of those restaurants really struggled.
People don't understand, like, there's no government coming to save you for
No.
that. Nobody's writing a check. Nobody's giving you a grant. No one's like, ha ha, he.
Yeah.
You're surviving. And then you have to keep your team aboard, because if they leave, they're not coming back, right? I mean, they need to have a living too.
Yep.
You know, so that's a darn hard trick.
So
if you're under construction and you can support a local restaurant during that time, please do.
Please do, yeah.
That's a real thing.
This was at the Norbert, and then having the Orville, which, you know, my dad and I, we did the Poplar in for several years. The first month or two of COVID happened, and I think it was time for my parents they wanted to be out, and they did such a wonderful job for all of those years. But then I was in control of both restaurants, and I took my staff from the Norbert last summer. I took them all to the Orville. We expanded hours just to keep everyone working, and then I was able to borrow some funds from some friends and investors, and I was able to kind of, I'm not saying I was sick of the Norbert the way that it was, but I'd had it for 9 years, and I believe, maybe you've heard me say this, whatever works for you yesterday, don't do it again. I really believe that things need to change, and I get bored very quickly. So
that's why I like this guy, Marcus.
Yeah.
This all sound really familiar.
Sounds like a brother from another mother.
He is a brother from another mother.
So there's got to be new, and you know, it keeps your staff interested and invested as well. As far as my chefs,
you know, it's. I'll just take a pause there. Restaurants and bars are interesting because you can go that route, or you can go like the absolute iconic route and refuse to change anything. I don't know how long that takes. I don't know if that's been studied. You might know that, Tony. Is that 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? But there's something about a restaurant that refuses to do anything. Like, to me, it's one or the other. Mm-hmm. Constant in flux, constant updated, constant re-emerging as a restaurant, or literally the iconic restaurant that I will not waver.
Yeah.
I will. Blink Bonnie in Saint Germain, very, very well known up there if you're in the Northwoods. You know, they literally have a 3-4 hour wait for a fish fry. So what would Tony and I do? We'd have 17 expansions going on and scaling it up, right? No, that's what we do.
And I love both restaurants.
I do. It's just very interesting, isn't it? I don't know how I think the iconic ones do it by happen chance, but yet that there's something to that too, right?
Yeah.
The refusal to change. In any business, really, there's something about that. But to me, that's way riskier, which sounds odd, because it sounds like riskier to change. To me, it's riskier to be the iconic model.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of restaurants in the area that stick with that because they know that it works. And
normally it works till it doesn't.
Yeah, right.
The iconic ones, I mean, that is so rare, and you have to be so unique.
Yeah. Yeah. But Wisconsin is the home of supper clubs and very rural restaurants that are in the middle of nowhere, and somehow Fridays and Saturday nights, the fish fries and the prime ribs and the old fashions, it's just packed. And I do love those places. I think that's really, really great. But where we were in West Bend and what I saw with what was happening with some of the restaurants, I wanted to kind of keep changing. And, you know, in order to keep really great staff, which I have, especially in the kitchens, Colin Regal's just this incredible chef.
Shout out, say hi.
Yeah. I don't want to take away, he's an artist. I don't want to take away his paintbrush. I want him to keep evolving, and then hopefully the public will kind of catch up to it. And the whole thing with the Norbert, when I started it about 10 years ago, it's actually, in 2 months it'll be 10 years.
That's insane. It does not seem, life goes really, really quick.
I know.
Before that was like my favorite Italian joint. What was the name of it?
Giannulli's.
I loved Giannulli's. It was like a deli-style Italian-themed restaurant in downtown West Bend that shouldn't have been there, and it shouldn't have worked. Obviously, it didn't work, but I thought it was amazing, the concept.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
But, you know, me being a carpenter, I also kind of have an eye and an idea on the way a space could and should look, and then I've got the ability to put all that into motion.
Well, and I think two things you have. Tell me if I'm wrong. I sense that you feel a social responsibility to the West Bend community.
Absolutely.
To bring them a new flair that maybe is underserved or misunderstood. And you do that out of the goodness of your heart or who you are. And then also, if you go to his restaurants, and we should get into that because we're going to run out of time really quick.
Yeah.
But we'll stay here because that's where it needs to be. You love to repurpose things. Mm-hmm. So when you go in there, it is very modest building materials that you bring to life, and I can tell you do that very from your heart and very intentionally. Maybe because I know you, maybe because I know the industry, but it just jumps at me when I walk in your locations. Like, this has got Tony's flair all over.
Built all the tables. Anytime something really needs to be built, I love.
Where does that social responsibility come from? Where I want to bring West Bend something different, because that obviously is not money driven. Where I'm like, this will derive me the most profit. There's something more to it, I can tell, for you. And what is that more?
This goes back to service and creating a gift and showing people, my neighbors, the people that support us, that it doesn't have to just be one thing, that we can actually do something else.
You don't have to deep fry cheese curds?
we do have the deep fried cheese curds.
Well, you do deep fry cheese curds. That's actually true. They're very good. But I mean, that's a bad analogy. That's not. It's a good analogy. You don't have the normal Cisco bar food.
No.
God bless anyone that does. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, we seek out. We work with Colin and Nate. Work with a lot of farms, and we work with really great purveyors, great fishmongers, great butchers, local butchers. We drive all the way to Platteville, Wisconsin, usually every 6 to 8 weeks for our cheese, because we want a certain squeak when we bite into a cheese curd. I certainly could buy them more affordably, or we could expedite them a lot faster through one of the big box.
Reinhardt or Cisco. I mean, that's the horses.
Yeah, but
the dirty secret in your industry, right, is you go to 80% of the restaurants in Wisconsin, mm-hmm. It's literally from Reinhardt or Cisco.
Yeah.
And that's nothing wrong with that. It's just, my dad had said that a long time ago. There's literally 4 fish fries in Wisconsin, mm-hmm. The 2 from Reinhardt and the 2 from Cisco. And he's kind of not wrong. Like, as you actually start thinking about it, you're like, yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't know that I was so into hospitality until I got into the business. And now every day before we open, the nerves and the jitters, every day.
Every day, just like you're going out for a play.
Yeah.
You're really like an artist. So let's just go right to hospitality. What does hospitality mean to you? How have you studied it, and how have you trained to it?
Sure.
Because we're huge into hospitality in ours. We love that word. I love the mindset behind it. I love the passion. How do you create that?
Well, just within the last year, there's been a book that I've referred to several times called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes, one of my favorites.
You guys are really
good. You have that book?
We not only it's on our book, we have a book club where we have 10 books, and if you read them, you get a $1,000 bonus. Is that right?
Yep.
And it's on the list.
Oh, cool.
It's on the list. Yeah, it's one of my faves.
Well, it applies to any business, and
it applies to any person.
Yeah.
It's a human thing. It's not a business thing.
Yeah. And it's not just the restaurant industry that because the book is kind of written from the standpoint of people who are in that business, but I like the fact that it really focuses in on your employees as well. So critical for me to walk into work every day and make sure everyone's okay.
And if they're okay, then empowering them to make that unreasonable hospitality, right? That's what I learned too.
Yeah.
We have to give them permission to go outside the lines.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the hospitality bit. Welcoming, I use this analogy.
Have you read Danny Meyer Setting the Table?
No, I haven't.
What? The holy grail of hospitality?
I know.
It's my fave.
I'm caught between Unreasonable Hospitality and Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, I've never read that. I have to read that. Can you remind me to read that?
Yep. You know what? If I can make a suggestion, because Anthony Bourdain had just the
R.I.P.
The most iconic restaurant voice. Great narrator.
Can you do it?
He does.
Can you do it?
Oh, no, I can't.
You can't do it, Bourdain.
What
we're doing right here, right now, is it's a reasonable Pilsner with drizzled olive oil with my good friend Tony here. So Saturday night here in Ecuador, we're having the.
He told the
local
business in Kitchen Confidential. He tells you, even right there, it says about the underbelly of the restaurant world, all of the the nitty gritty, some of the dirty stuff that really happens. Of course, things have cleaned up a lot since he wrote the book. Interesting fact, though, as great as he was as a writer and journalist and narrator of his own book, if you really look into it, he was an incredible chef too. People don't really realize just how incredible of a chef he was. So he had both viewpoints on that one. Hospitality, inviting people into your homes, right? Get the door for them. Walk them out.
What do you say to like the waitress or waitress's first week or two? Like, what's your onboarding of? Hey, you're at the Norbert now. These are I've restauranted all over Kewaskum and whatever. Okay, you're here now. This is what do you do different? How do you onboard somebody in that world?
Sure.
In your world. For hospitality.
I watched an interview once with Lauren Michaels that really struck home for me, and I'm coming back to what you're going to say or what you're asking. And he was like, "I only put likable people on the television set." So my mindset when I'm interviewing a server or someone for the front of the house at the restaurant is, number one, are they likable? When you go to a bakery on a Sunday morning and there's a little old lady behind like the counter and you can hardly see her, you just hear a little voice and she's got like an apron on, a little hat and everything else. For me, there's nothing warmer, and I bring that up a lot when I'm interviewing servers. I want likable people. I need you to smile. I want you to be presentable. I want you to genuinely care. Never be disingenuous.
Can you tell why I brought him on? Brother, he is a brother from another mother. Yeah. So we call it hiring positive people. Mm-hmm. And sadly, I believe it's less and less in our country, our world, by the day. And I think it's the ratios around the 20% of the world's population is only positive. And I want to have that positive energy influence of every team member we hire. Yeah. And I will say, if you don't believe it, go to your next family outing and start picking off people that aren't positive, mm-hmm. and you're going to end up with a small group, right? Yeah. So we do the same thing. It's hiring positive people, and then they're so trainable because they're already positive. I can't make somebody positive. I can't train to that. Yeah. They have to have that energy influence. And you kind of said it too. They have to be likable. You have to like them. One thing that I do in the interview process that I've trained to is, can you drive 60 minutes with them in a car? Or are they going to drive you nuts? Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to work with them every day. And I used to not hire that way. I'd be like, well, everyone's different in the world. It's like, no, I have to like them too. Yeah, yeah. Team players are a big deal too, because the service is 3, 4, 5 hours, and we all need to be in motion. Kind of like the Mighty Ducks when they're doing their thing. They all need to skate together. They all need constant communication, either through eyesight or verbal, and then how does that relate back to the kitchen, especially at the Norbert where we're doing small plates. The food's not always coming out at the same time. So that's why I get the jitters. That's why I get nervous every single shift. So that's what you love. That's your dopamine kick.
That's your absolutely.
Drug. That's your drug.
I'm completely addicted to chaos.
Is it also, when I worked in summer baseball for a few
summers.
There's
your book title, Addicted to Chaos.
Yeah. Right.
By Tony Koebel.
We always talked about people coming out to a baseball game, like there's always somebody in attendance that it's their first time here. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the jitter feeling too, where you could have somebody walking in the door for the first time and you want to make that experience like the greatest thing for them?
Yeah, and one of the primary questions I have for every customer is if I try and recognize everybody.
And he does. Like I said, he knows you when you come in as a human.
Sure. But if I don't, I'll, is this your first time here? And what brings you in? And I'm actually
like collecting those data points, kind of thing. Like
yeah. And then just asking about them.
So Danny Meyer uses technology to do that. Yeah. So instead of like you having that all in your head, it's amazing. Like they collect that data, then they quickly throw it on an app or just on a Google Notes or whatever, mm-hmm. right? So if the Fleischmans come in and they know they get their anniversary, they get their birthday, what they like, any little cues like you have in your brain. I just think that's fascinating that Danny's done that to that level. So they're literally like, what's your name? Marcus Wiegert. Pull it up.
Yep.
Any data point that any of your teams that are gathered. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, it's your birthday next week, huh? Yeah, here you go. It's like, wait a second.
Right.
We're not there yet, but the way that we do take our phone calls and our reservations has been lately, we won't, is this a special occasion? Are there dietary or...
unreasonable hospitality, right?
Yep.
Like, get all that data points ahead of time.
Yeah, so, and then we just kind of mark it in the book, and then we know, and then hopefully the server, if she's or he is not too
overwhelmed.
Yes, that they can make that. Hey, I understand it's just kind of a girls' night. I understand it's an anniversary. I understand it's a birthday, and we try and write cards. We also enter names for birthdays and anniversaries. And
look at that.
Yeah.
See, that's pretty good.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
No, you're there.
Work in progress.
Do you guys have like a black and white script when it comes to somebody who maybe isn't as happy with something that they were served or how service was or anything like that, or is it always kind of gray area and depends on the situation?
Yeah, I this is another talking point during the interview process, and we've heard people in our industry say, "Well, you can't make everyone happy." That's bullshit. You absolutely can make everyone happy. Maybe the server couldn't, maybe the food didn't hit the mark, but if that's the point, a manager is always told right away, and then we head over and say, how can we fix this? And I'm a firm believer that everyone needs to walk out. If they're not happy, they're not paying. Sure, it ends up costing you a little bit of money, but that's the bottom line is, will they return or not? Are they going to tell their friends that they were treated well at the end, or their family or their neighbors or whoever else? So, stay on top of it like that.
Kind of hearing them out at least and letting them have their piece kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
let's get into, you're also very, very passionate about service, and I know you have Habitat for Humanity speaks to your heart for decades.
Mm-hmm.
You also have German Fest coming up, you told me, and then you also have the Thanksgiving dinner. So tell me a little bit about them, why you're passionate about them, maybe educate people what this all does and how people could help.
Sure. For me, being a carpenter and service for others, Habitat that made total sense.
It just click.
Yep. So, and in 08, 09, when the recession really started to kick in, a lot of us carpenters were looking for work, and it was really drying up. Well, Habitat was still building, and we to this day, this world needs a lot more affordable housing. And the great thing about Habitat for me was they always say it's a hand up, not a handout. I think because it's so because Jimmy Carter was so involved in it, I think a lot of people believe, well, this must just be a freebie for folks. But the reality is, you're just building a home. People are still paying for it, which I loved that idea. It's just interest free. And Habitat, what they say is, you can't profit off the poor or the needy. So we're going to give it to you, but we're going to give it to you without interest. And you got to buy it. So for me, that was the biggest thing. And then, working with volunteers. Gosh, I love giving someone a hammer or a nail gun or a saw and being like, you can do this. It's so empowering. I've never shot one of these before. I've never built a wall before. Well, today's the day. And then so many people leave with confidence. It's remarkable how many people have reached out to me over the years and been like, they'd see me at the restaurant and they go, hey, I'm putting up this wall on Sunday, and I know you helped me when, they have to remind me. I'm like, we had thousands of volunteers. Of course. I met so many people through Habitat. I was with them for so long.
I've volunteered a few times for Habitats, and I always get like the things, I'm not handy. I'm not even good at putting up walls. I'm like the opposite of you. I can't even do carpentry stuff, but at least I know the carpentry techniques. Mm-hmm. I'll get like, Joel, you can put the outlets on the electrical units, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. Like I'll get 2 done in 2 hours, so that's cool.
I think I had you sweeping floors, didn't I?
I hope that would probably that'd be the only useful thing I could do on a Habitat job site.
Yeah,
that's probably I can coordinate, help, guide, and sweep. Yes, if I can find that kind of project management role.
I think everyone struggles with some form of confidence when it comes to something they don't know anything about.
Well, especially when this is live bullets. Like, this is a real house. You don't want to screw it up.
So, and I struggle with confidence on a few things in life. I think we all do. But to be put in the position to have 10, 15, 20 volunteers ready to build a house, and let's just say half of them don't have the confidence to do some of the things that they're required to do or asked to do that day. But at the end of that day, if they can leave with, hey, I know how to do this now, but on top of that, they're helping to build affordable housing for folks. Oh, it's a win-win. That's what kept me there all those years. And we had a great executive director, Russ Want. That was just fantastic what he was doing. So
shout out to Russ.
Yeah, shout out to Russ.
Well. Yeah. So then also you have your German Fest.
Yep, which is another Habitat thing. German Fest was going on in West Bend for, 25, 30 years. And then all of a sudden it was going to come to an end. The people over at Tenny's Hardware or whoever was running it, they said, okay, we're done. And Habitat...
And I don't blame anybody. There's burnout from any volunteer group. So
yeah. Habitat looked at that opportunity and said, well, let's take it on. We did it at the in the Tenny's parking lot for several years. And now just this last year, we worked over to...
So
Park.
German Fest in West Bend, August 26th.
22nd through the 25th, or the 26th.
That weekend?
Yes.
Okay, and that is now a Habitat for Humanity event?
Yes. I believe just the sales from T-shirts and beer and all the other things, I believe builds an entire house.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Wow.
That's really cool.
So,
it's a great event if you're a German or non-German. I've been there several times. I wish I could spend more time there. One of my bucket lists, which I have the weirdest bucket list, is to do the Sheep's Head tournament there if you still have. So I have not done that yet, but it always falls on the strange weekend. It always seems like it's a pretty busy weekend, but I would love to just sit there and play Sheep's Head.
Yeah.
I guess I'm old enough now, 50, I wouldn't even be... I wanted to do it like in my 20s to be the young guy. Now I'm probably like average age. Old.
Is it always the weekend before Labor Day?
About that time frame. Yeah.
So.
It really is. Around that 24th, 5th that time.
So yeah, that's coming up. We're doing a lot of the food for that. And then, Thanksgiving. This will be my third year. We used to do it a lot we used to do it every year at the Norbert. And then Mary Kay, and oh my God, her last name, she's gonna see this. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm blanking. There's a camera on me and a microphone.
We'll come back.
Edit this out.
We'll just insert her name here.
ChatGPT or something. So myself and Kelly Sickler, she's over at Delta Defense. We've taken this on, and it's just been an absolute blast. We're dealing with, I'm guessing, between 200 and 250 volunteers, all told, with all of the food prep, which will start soon. We literally start cooking turkeys in a few weeks. We just cook them off, about 4 at a time. We rip them off the bones, all the meat off the bones, and then we freeze it. Just because we're going to do 80 birds, and they're all 22-pound birds. So, but the week of, we've got all of these volunteers that come into the Norbert during the day before service. And everyone's peeling potatoes. They're dicing up carrots. We're making stuffing.
If you wanted to volunteer, where would you go for either event?
I would definitely call the Habitat for Humanity office in West Bend if you want to volunteer for German Fest. And they are definitely looking for volunteers for setup, knockdown, pouring beer, trash, you name it. And then I can probably get you the right phone number to call for Thanksgiving. We try and do that through a Google app or whatever.
At this point, call the Norbert if you're interested in volunteering.
I would say call the Norbert.
Make reservations and then ask to volunteer for Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll start there at least.
Yeah. Let me know if you have any dietary restrictions.
No one really listens or watches this, so you're not going to get 5,000 requests. So your phone lines won't be overwhelmed. It's fine.
Yeah. But business is good for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is good
Fantastic.
for us. Yeah. We're a non-commission based company, which has changed everything. And we went to non-commission based, and we spend a lot of our time now focusing on our local builders, and what that means is really driving a lower price to them and a consistent price to them with consistent products. We really went from most lumberyards are a sourcing company. You call, hey, could I get this? Sure, and we put some rando markup based on a commission-based salesman. Now it's really defining who we are. Similar to a Costco philosophy, we don't need 15 peanut butters. We need a really, really good one at a really, really good price, and then train our team why it's really good, and then train you, the builder, of why it's really good, and this is why we picked this one.
Yeah.
Because you guys don't have time. The industry's kind of goofed up. We assume the builders doing all this research on the best products out there and then calling us for the best products. They don't have time to do that. We need to do the research on their behalf and then bring them a really good product. We call it buy a shit ton of it, stock it, use our buying power, lower that cost to them, because it really is a lot right now into cost. I think Drexel was known for, hey, really good people, good products. Yeah, you pay more, but that's what the give and take. And we're trying to flip that script. We have the best damn price in the state of Wisconsin based on our buying power, our efficiency, our creativity, and who we are. Bringing that to the builder, the lowest price on the best products that we can find. And then, you get all the shiny stuff for free. The hospitality just comes right with it.
Yeah.
So hopefully making it a no-brainer for the builder. And we just, what we call, very similar to restaurants, John Tapper, right? Bar Rescue, one-page menus. We don't need to have everything under the sun. We need to have the best in this buy and buy a shit ton of it. Just like you guys in a restaurant, because we only have a little bit of it. I don't inventory it right. It's taking up too much room. It's not turning fast enough. And then our chef doesn't know how to make it when they do order it. Right? They're like, yeah, I can get that for you, Tony. And you're like, that's not really what I ordered. You really didn't order enough. And I really paid more because you don't really order it the correct way for me. And it's maybe something I never even installed. So now I have to sit there and YouTube videos of it because you just got something random for me that I ordered.
Sure.
And then I probably paid too much because you don't have the buying power of sourcing it, right? Which is very similar to restaurants. Like, I could have crab legs tonight, but what am I buying? 3 orders of it?
Right.
Frozen, and now my chef doesn't really know how to make it. And here we are, and now I still had it as a special, and now I have 2 left in the freezer. Oh, kill me now.
Yeah.
Versus, this is what we have. We do it unbelievably well, and I love it, right? And then we hope our builders, we say it, our builders, I think, used to like us. We want our builders to love us.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on every day.
And you are, and I know we got to wrap things up, but
No, that's okay. That's fine. It goes as long as it needs to go.
I know that you are probably looking at every business or every time you walk into a restaurant or an auto parts store or wherever you go, Walgreens, you're probably looking at service and hospitality. You
know what? And in the last, we just talked about pricing. In the last, because I work right now, I'm daily working with our merchants on what we call smart pricing. I'm right now even more obsessed with how people price things. Price is such an unbelievable arbitrarial thing, especially in our industry. Literally, commission-based sales would mark it up whatever they think, versus what should that price be and why. Psychologically, I call it where data meets emotion, right? Just like in the restaurant industry. Just because you can make that chicken breast for $3 doesn't mean you sell it for $9 because that's what the industry says. Maybe you sell that for $19, and maybe if you sold it for $9, it would look too cheap. In fact, I talk about and Mine Shaft has Highway 41. They have fish fry right now for $4.99, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm like, well, how do you think that tastes? And everybody goes, well, for shit. They're literally unintentionally marketing their food to be bad. Maybe it's got the best fish fry and they just happen to sell it cheap. So pricing even goes like, it alludes to quality to some degree.
Yeah.
Like, how do you perceive it? So I'm right now in every single thing that I do, I'm absolutely obsessed with how you price it, which is part of hospitality.
Oh, yeah.
Huge part of hospitality, right? I mean, Friday fish fry has to be at a certain price point. How much can you charge for the French fries? How much can you charge for your martini? How much can you charge for the dessert? That's an unknown variable, but has to be thought about, and it's very rarely thought about, especially in our industry, because of the commission-based salesman just using a pencil and a paper and marking it up. In fact, our builders, I should say ours, and our competition, our builders pay different prices on everything they buy based on the day and what the salesman feels like. There's no magic. There's no buying. There's no pricing strategy of any of our competition. In fact, the only one the reason Johnny Menards is a billionaire is not because of his locations or his products, think of that, or his selection or his quality. He's a pricing genius, right? Marketing saying save big money, and then he knew to price the most shopped items ridiculously low, and he'll get you to buy the licorice. So that's what I'm obsessed with.
I buy the licorice.
See,
huge licorice
I don't go into the big. I don't go into the big boxes. I don't.
I
shop
go to
the big
Menards
box.
solely for the licorice.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you're a hardware store guy, so I get it. You got to go see all the latest tools. I get it. It's all good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's sadly they've taken a lot of the market share of a lot of those kind of products. You can't. There's no other place to buy a mirror but a big box store. That's where you buy a mirror. Like, there's a lot of things they just literally own the market on.
Yeah.
Crazy. Ceiling fans. Try to find that at a local shop.
Yeah, good point.
Crazy.
Good point.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what else you guys got? Oh, billboard, right?
Billboard. Yeah.
Tony's running the show. He is a lot like me.
That's fine.
Hijacking the podcast.
You don't have your own podcast, do you?
I don't know.
No?
What would I write on what would my billboard say?
Yeah, so anybody can see it. It's on Highway 41 and everyone's driving through it. What's it going to say?
It would say serve others. We've got to be good neighbors. We have to promote good fellowship. I'm not much of a fighter. Pretty relaxed guy, except when it comes to my own business. Turns out I never thought I was very competitive until I actually got into the restaurant business. You mentioned competition, but we could spend a whole separate podcast talking about the pricing in the restaurant business right now versus grocery stores and what people are willing to spend on entertainment or travel. Travel is doing very well right now. We're all kind of going. I mentioned before we started airing or recording that this has been a very stressful year, just based on inflation and post-pandemic. Is
this where I say thanks, Joe Biden, or is this inappropriate?
Who knows?
I think I just did. But no, it is that. Let's just break it down to like a steak, right? No matter what and it's very similar to our industry, no matter what your cost is, people are just simply in West Bend, Wisconsin, are not going to pay $74 for a steak.
Yeah.
So you're fighting this crazy inflation.
It's crazy.
But yet you literally can't come up with a menu that says $74 for a steak.
No.
People will literally walk out. So you're fighting this unbelievable battle of what the consumer's perception is versus the reality of what things are costing, correct? I mean,
yes.
That's what you guys are battling in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, and we're paying attention every day. And for me, to hear that grocery stores have never been more profitable is concerning.
I do think that's why restaurants are so busy, though. Now, they might not be profitable, but they're so busy because, yes, I mean, the steak at the grocery store is almost the same damn steak that you make for me. It's crazy. There's not much of a gap anymore.
No.
Well, I mean, I even saw that on the internet the other day, and I actually said it to a friend, was, if you buy all the raw ingredients for whatever you're going to buy tonight, it's like $94, and you're getting it for good luck recreating the Orville meal.
Yeah.
For $34. You're going to be like $172 to get all those ingredients into that meal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do a Qdoba Power Bowl on your own. Right, you're like, okay, that's $12 or Chipotle, right? It's like $18. You're like, oh my god. Yeah, make that shit on your own. You're like, that's $57.
Yeah. So some of the things that we have to deal with just to stay, keep the lights on. So, but all in all, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, serve others. I would say that. Just be a good neighbor, be a good friend, or become a friend.
Well, I think your parents would be happy with that one.
I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to watch this.
My parents don't either, but
okay.
They do shout out to them someday. And I encourage you to keep expanding your faith in all different ways, and I know you will. So you do you on that, and God bless you. Thank you for coming on, and we continue to appreciate it. And for all of you listening, go check out his restaurants. I highly encourage it. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Love you. God bless.
Thanks, Tony. Want to wait? We're out.